Right standing with God is at his right hand and authority above everything on earth. And that's where obedience gets you. That's where surrendering in obedience to him gets you. Where you're supposed to be. Because a lot of times we get really worried about things. We get worried about our things, about where we're going to go, what we're going to do next. But we have to learn to lay those things down. Now, it doesn't mean we sit on our butts, but we learn to lay those things down. And we say, God, I trust you with it. I'm going to walk, but I'm going to trust you with every step. We don't stop walking, but we walk and surrender in every step in faith to him. We're all getting an idea of surrender, right? And how it is love. And remember that love flows all the way back through the intimacy, through the faith, to perfect health. And we're going to kind of come back around into that here in a minute. We're going to talk a little bit more about how we surrender and what surrender produces. I just want to say again, free will doesn't demand surrender or obedience, but he wants you to surrender and show obedience to show your love for him. And we just constantly have it on your mind. Just constantly have it on your mind. We're called to live a life of surrender because it's a life filled with love. You surrender to God, someone comes up. Here's Jesus right here. You surrender to God, someone comes up and slaps you in the face, you turn your other cheek. Because what they just did is not going to affect you. Because you're surrendered, which means nothing they do to you even matters because it's not even you who lives anymore. It's Christ who lives through you. And you say, dude, I could never, ever sit there when someone slapped me in the face. You surrender your life and let God work through you, it'll be easy. I can tell you right now, with God, I have done things I've never thought I would ever be able to do. I used to not like kids because they used to annoy the crud out of me. I love kids now. I just love the crud out of kids now. I think about my patience at that point in time. I think about my forgiveness at that point in time. I've had people do things to me now that back then I would have gone... Actually, I had someone do something to me back then that I didn't even... I never really even forgave until I met God. But for 6 months, I was like in depression over what they did. Someone did the same thing to me again. I forgave them instantly. And it never messed with me ever again. That's what God will do to you. Someone will slap you in the face. You'll be able to turn the other cheek if you surrender your life to God. There's so many people that don't... Yeah.
Oh, I didn't mean to interrupt you. That's what the dying to yourself and taking up your cross, that's a huge part of it. You can't offend a dead man.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't matter what you do. Rick Joyner wrote that. You know, doesn't matter. You know, you spit on them, you kick them, you call them all kinds of names. They're not going to react. It doesn't affect them. They're no longer there.
That's awesome. That's good. I agree. Let's go on to 1 John 2:15 through 17. And this is just, these next couple verses are going to be things that, like, to stay away from. So, honestly, like, I feel like having these things in there, like, sometimes you don't even need them. Because, like, I believe that if you have enough of the truth, if you have the truth and you're locked in faith, you don't even need to know the bad side because when it comes, it's not going to be able to touch you because you're going to walk in the truth. But at the same time, it is good to know the bad just in case it comes in and you see, okay, you're bad. So we're going to just read over a couple verses that are, we're going to go over a couple verses. In that verse. Stay away from Tina.
Behaving like Tina.
Because I believe there's a level that you get to. There's a level that you get to, and I'm almost positive in this because I've seen people who barely even read their Bible, but they get into such a deep surrender with God that they'll be sitting there and they'll be doing all sorts of biblical things, and later, and they'll be sitting there talking to me, and they'll be telling me Bible verses, and they don't even know they're saying Bible verses. That's what I mean is that you have the truth. When those things begin to hit you, if you are locked in surrender, a lot of those things won't even touch you, and you may not even know what they are. I mean, if you are supposed to take every thought captive, and all you know is that the only thing you want is Jesus your entire life, that's all you ever want, whenever certain thoughts come, they're not even going to touch you anyways. You don't even have to know if they're bad or good. They're just not going to touch you because all you want is Jesus. And that surrender will do that to you. It's the freedom. It's the healing. When you have physical illness come in and you say, no, I'm healed by His stripes, and I'm surrendered to God, so it doesn't even matter. This isn't my body. This is Christ. This is His blood is flowing through my veins, and you are not going to touch me because of who I am now. Because I am like Him. John G. Lake, he was called to go to Africa. God told him to go to Africa. He went to Africa. This is when the Black Plague was going on. And there's just bodies everywhere. Just bodies everywhere. Because you can't even touch the dead bodies, because if you touch the dead bodies, you're going to get the disease and it'll kill you. John G. Lake went to Africa. He went out in the morning, started burying bodies. Started picking up bodies, throwing them in the dishes, burying them. And doctors came up to him and they were like, hey, you can't do that, because that'll get on you and you'll die. And he said, no, I won't die, because of Jesus Christ who died for me. When I touch that disease, it will not kill me, but whenever it touches me, it will die. And they took a sample of the disease and put his hand under a microscope and dumped it into his hand, and they watched it die in his hand under the microscope. We're called to walk. That was like 1904. John G. Lake had one of the biggest healing ministries ever. But we have the same authority. And we have more of God now than he had then, I promise. So understand that whenever you surrender and you say, no, I'm not going to die because Christ lives through me. Because you've surrendered your life. So let's look at some things that we need to surrender. 1 John 2:15 through 17. I think we're back to me. Do not love the world, nor the things in the world. If anyone loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. For all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh and the lust of the eyes and the boastful pride of life, is not from the Father, but is from the world. The world is passing away, and also its lusts, but the one who does the will of God lives forever. So we need to lay down the worldly things. Lay down the worldly things. There's a verse in James, I believe, that says that the devil wants to take our desires. Maybe your desire is football. He wants to take your desires and turn them into sin. He wants to take your sin, he wants to turn it into death. So here's what I mean. He wants to take football. He wants you to begin to worship football. He wants you to begin to get sucked up into football. So then you begin to sin because you're not following the first commandment, because it's becoming the most important thing. But then what he wants to do is he wants to take football and he wants to make it an idol. He wants to make it like a god in your life. And whenever it becomes an idol, it becomes death. Because the Spirit is what gives life. And whenever you let that fill you, whenever you let football fill you, it kicks out the Spirit. And that brings death. So the Spirit is what gives life. So football is not bad at all. I love football. But, and this goes with everything in your life, this is what he means, is don't let the lusts of the world, the lusts of your eyes, get in the way of the will of God. It's not wrong to love those things, not wrong to enjoy those things, but do not let them become your life. Because whenever those